Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Todd and Julie Chrisley admit to troubles adjusting to life after prison. Todd and Julie Chrisley famously saw an early release from prison thanks to a presidential pardon. Since then, however, they've been sharing what their time was like behind bars with various outlets. In a recent share, the Chrisley Knows Best stars have made surprising claims about what it was like adjusting to the outside world since their release. Todd and Julie Chrisley recently talked about their current situation during their podcast. Todd and Julie Chrisley became known to fans through the USA Network series, Chrisley Knows Best. In 2022, however, the two were convicted of various charges, including tax evasion and bank fraud. This led to the couple getting sentenced to a combined 19 years behind bars. Back in May, however, the couple saw an early release thanks to a presidential pardon from President Donald Trump. Following their release, Todd and Julie have been sharing their story with various outlets. Recently, Todd and Julie talked about their release on their podcast series, Chrisley Confessions 2.0. During the conversation, they shared that they've actually had some difficulties adjusting to life in the outside world, despite their early release. Julie noted that she spoke with other women in her position. She shared, "I've actually talked to a few of the women that I was in prison with that are already home. And we all have this general consensus that it's kind of weird to even say it." Todd reassured her, "No, it's not weird. Life is rougher than prison life. I mean, that's a sad thing to say because it is so horrific, the conditions that you're there for, but that's from a physical standpoint. But from an emotional and psychological standpoint, it is harder dealing with day to day." The Chrisley Knows Best stars shared that the pardon still helped make their transition easier. Julie then highlighted how inmates have a lack of control in their lives during their time in prison. She shared, "There's very little you can do because you're in prison. And people told me this when I first got there. You can't live out there and in here at the same time because it'll literally run you crazy. And the longer you're there, the more removed you become to the world." The Chrisley Knows Best matriarch continued, noting that inmates eventually get accustomed to their new lives. She added, "The longer that people are away from their kids, as crazy as it sounds, because it's a double-edged sword, the easier it becomes because you get into your own routine." That said, the couple shared that they were grateful to get a pardon. Todd even noted how it made the transition easier that if they just finished their set time. He explained, "We didn't have to go to a halfway house. So we don't have to answer to a probation officer. We're not limited as to where we can go and how we can move. So I think we were thrown right back into the real world." For years, America knew Todd and Julie Chrisley as the glamorous, sharp-witted couple from Chrisley Knows Best, living in grandeur with a dose of Southern charm and a camera-ready smile. But now, after serving time in federal prison for tax evasion and fraud, the Chrisleys have emerged back into society with far more questions than answers, and no script to follow. In an emotional sit-down interview from their modest new Nashville rental home, a far cry from their opulent mansion of years past, Todd and Julie opened up for the first time about their painful, raw, and surprisingly humbling transition from inmates to civilians. "We're not the same people who walked into those gates," Todd said quietly, his voice lacking the usual bravado. Dressed in jeans and a simple gray t-shirt, his usual manicured confidence had been traded in for something more grounded. "Prison broke us. Then it built us. And now we're just trying to live again." Julie, ever the poised matriarch, nodded beside him, clutching a mug of chamomile tea. Her once blonde hair was now tinged with gray, left untouched since her incarceration. "We thought life after prison would be easier. A homecoming, a new chapter. But the truth is, we're strangers in our own world. Everything feels different, foreign. Even our kids look at us with questions they're too scared to ask. Indeed, since their release, Todd after 10 months, Julie after nearly a year, the couple has been navigating the reality of life with ankle monitors, court-mandated check-ins, and limited job opportunities. Their names, once synonymous with glitz and family values, are now walk into restaurants and get offered the best table. Todd said, managing a hollow laugh. Now I walk in and feel eyes on me, and not in a good way. They talked about the isolation that followed their release. Friends they once entertained with champagne and lavish parties now refuse to return texts. Neighbors avert their eyes at the grocery store. Brand deals gone, speaking engagements canceled, and the biggest blow of all, the distance it's put between them and their older children. Savannah's trying, Julie said carefully. She's been raising Grayson and Chloe during all of this. But we missed birthdays, school events, holidays. We missed life. The couple described their first night home as one of the most disorienting experiences they've ever had. There were no 5 a.m. wake-up calls, Todd recalled. No strip searches. No cafeteria food. I should have felt free. But instead, I felt paralyzed. I couldn't sleep without someone counting heads at 3 a.m. I kept listening for the buzz of the doors locking. It was like my body was still behind bars. Julie echoed his sentiment. You'd think I'd run into the kitchen and start cooking, something I used to love. But I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. I just stood there, staring, wondering how we were supposed to return to being normal. Their marriage, too, had been put to the test. Though they'd exchanged letters during their time in separate facilities, the lack of physical connection, the daily grind of prison life, and the shame they both carried created a wedge neither was prepared for. There were days I wasn't sure we'd make it, Todd confessed. I blamed Julie. She blamed me. We both blamed the system. But in the end, it wasn't about blame. It was about survival. To rebuild, they've started attending therapy, separately and together. They've also leaned heavily into their faith, though Todd admitted even that had been shaken. I used to say God had a plan for us. But when I was scrubbing toilets and sleeping on a metal bunk, I started to wonder what kind of plan that was. Julie added, faith isn't just a cute saying embroidered on a pillow anymore. It's the only thing that gets us out of bed some days. And yet, in the midst of their struggles, there's a quiet strength between them. A determination not to let this chapter define the rest of their lives. We know people are watching, Julie said, her eyes misting. Some are rooting for us to fail, but we also know there are people, maybe moms and dads who've made mistakes too, who want to see if redemption is possible. Todd chimed in, we're not here to prove we're innocent. That ship has sailed. We're here to prove that even guilty people can change, can grow, can start over. As they spoke, Chloe burst into the room with a bright drawing in hand, a picture of a house, a son, and 2 smiling figures labeled Papa, and Mama J. Todd scooped her up, kissed her cheek, and smiled. She doesn't care what Google says about us, he whispered. She just wants pancakes and bedtime stories. For now, the Chrisleys say they're taking life one day at a time. They've downsized, they've humbled themselves, and they've stopped pretending to be perfect. We're not Chrisley knows best anymore, Todd said with a faint grin. Now we're just trying to know better and do better. That's all we can offer.